Okay, as former President Donald Trump faces new charges in the classified documents case, one of his strongest supporters is pushing the House to expunge, effectively reverse his two impeachments. Republican Congressman from Florida, Donalds. Meanwhile, Donalds himself is now facing off against Trump's main primary challenger, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Donalds is clashing with DeSantis over his state's controversial new Black history curriculum, criticizing this one line in particular. It reads, "Slaves developed skills which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit." Congressman Donalds joins us. I'm going to start off by playing a little bit of what Governor DeSantis had to say, and most people think it was directed at you.
It's not picking a fight. It's, look, at the end of the day, Floridians should stand up for Florida. Don't side with Kamala Harris and liberals who are demagoguing this. These are people that worked really hard on this. Our State Board of Education approved it. You had nobody raising a ruckus about this until it became convenient to try to do it. So I would just say, I'd ask all my colleagues in Florida, stand up for your state.
And Congressman, you are in fact one of those colleagues in Florida. The Kamala Harris, of course, said this is an attempt by Republicans and the president's opponents to gaslight the civil rights movement. What do you say to the Governor DeSantis? Are you with Kamala Harris or are you with Floridians?
Well, first, let's start here. I don't agree with Kamala Harris. She's tried to play politics with this, and that's what she wanted to do. Let's move her to the side, because she's really not the issue at this point. When it comes to our standards, they're not controversial. Let's establish that for something as well. If you go through the standard set, they are reasonable, they are appropriate, they are robust. Children in Florida will learn Black history and they'll do a good job with it. The only issue I have, and some other members have, is the one line that you just read. So if I disagree with one line, that doesn't mean that I'm disagreeing with the curriculum set. That's number two. How this all really started is that the governor's team tried to make an issue out of this because of my statement to a local reporter. So if they decide that this is the cause celeb for their campaign efforts, I think it's a dumb move, and I don't think it works, and I don't think it helps anybody. All it really does is divide Republicans and gives the left something to talk about. But if you look at what the scholars have done here, they have done a tremendous job. I've not said anything against the job that they have done. My only point has been about the one sentence that you read at the top of this interview.
So, Governor DeSantis, is he dividing Republicans intentionally on this issue for his own political gain as he runs for president in the Republican nomination?
No. See, now hold on. Now, the way you phrase your question, this is the other problem, which is why we shouldn't even be involved in this, because now media is going to take it any way they want to try to make it more of a story. I want to be very, very clear with what I'm going to say. The governor's team decided to take my comments and have an issue with it online, on Twitter, or on Twitter X, or whatever we're calling it now. They decided to make an issue set out of it. Is that dividing Republicans? No, I don't think so. But they are the ones that have created this story. It didn't have to be this way that we're talking about this now, because at the end of the day, I do think that the Black history standards in Florida are very, very good, and they're going to help our children.
One of the scholars that you mentioned, I believe his name is William Allen, and he's been an activist in civil rights over the course of his career. He says Florida students deserve to learn how slaves took advantage of whatever circumstances they were in to benefit themselves and the community of African descendants. That's in response to the criticism of Kamala Harris. Do you agree with Mr. Allen?
Look, I think Mr. Allen is a scholar. He's gone through the work of putting this all together. So my issue really is not with him per se. It's just the fact of how do you go about communicating these ideas when you put out standards and you start building that curriculum. That's all. No more, no less. Yes, you have Black people who will tell you it doesn't sit well if you say that slaves benefited from slavery. It just doesn't sit well. But does that make this now a massive controversy? No, it does not. We're talking about a disagreement on distinctions, but not a disagreement on where we're going and the actual goal of what's being accomplished. The fact that this has now become a news story, with all the stuff going on around here on Capitol Hill, you got Hunter Biden's plea deal blowing up because it was a bad plea deal concocted by the Department of Justice to cover up for Joe Biden and their corrupt family. That's the stuff we should be talking about, not some random disagreement that basically was made to be a real issue when no real issue exists. We're having a disagreement. That's okay. What is happening to Donald Trump is a political use of the Department of Justice. This is politics of the worst kind. This is third world, banana republic stuff brought to us by Joe Biden, by Merrick Garland, and by Jack Smith. Because if you mean to tell me that they're bringing all of these charges against a former president who is the front runner for the Republican nomination of president of the United States, they all know. And it's as terrible for our country. If this is allowed to occur, where you criminalize the leading candidate so he cannot try to actually fulfill the will of the American people if he is elected president, then what you are doing is you are signaling that this kind of behavior and corruption is okay in the United States. It is not. I believe President Trump is correct on this. He should not get out of the race because they decided to weaponize the Department of Justice against a political rival.
Okay, Congressman, you referenced what's going on in the House. One of the things, or at least two of the things going on in the House now is one, many members on the Republican side of the aisle in the House of Representatives are moving to expunge or effectively erase from the history books the two impeachments of President Trump. Number one, do you support that effort? And number two, many of those same members now want to start an impeachment inquiry of President Biden. Do you support expunging on one hand and impeaching on the other?
I do, and here's why. If you want to take a look at impeachment number one, it was based upon a phone call between President Trump and President Zelensky of Ukraine, talking about potential issues of corruption around Burisma concerning Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. What have we learned? That it's all true. That there was political corruption between Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and Burisma in Ukraine. The Biden family was paid. Joe Biden used his office to get the prosecutor looking into Burisma fired. So the fact that Nancy Pelosi led a fast impeachment with no evidence, all based upon a phone call, and by the way, the transcript was released, and that's all that occurred. There was no public corruption, but congressional Democrats voted for it anyway. It was pure politics. There was no basis. On to impeachment number two. After January 6th, which was a terrible day in the history of our country, it was. The Democrats ran to the floor with an impeachment vote. No evidence, no investigations. It was all supposition and emotions. And they impeached the president for that. That is wrong. That is not how impeachment is supposed to work in our country. Now, to Joe Biden. We have documented and now have corroborated with IRS whistleblowers and another FBI agent who has corroborated the fact that Hunter Biden was the front man for the Biden family to receive tens of millions of dollars for the sole purpose of Joe Biden leveraging his office as commander-in-chief right now and when he was vice president of the United States under Barack Obama. We've been investigating that. And the story that Joe Biden and his White House says has never measured up. No, this is important. So give me a second.
All right, Congressman.
This matters. Their story has never measured up. So should the House start an impeachment inquiry? Yes, we should, because this is public corruption and we have evidence, unlike what the Democrats had.
All right, Congressman, I'm afraid we're out of time. You left a lot there on the table. We're going to be chewing on this for here with the panel and in the weeks and months to come. Congressman Byron Donalds, thanks for your time today.
Sure.